Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Today's episode, I'm going to be building a small but wide gate. It's going to be about 40 inches tall. It's going to be almost 5 feet wide. It's going to have a radius top to it and all kinds of decor on the inside. Let's get started on today's project. Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video. Okay, so today's choice is 1.5 inch square tube. Now I've had this radius pieces bent by my metal supply store. That's something I don't do here in my shop. So when I have something like this, I just have it done. And usually when I have them bend it, I have them bend it long, maybe a foot or maybe 2 foot longer. So I have plenty to work with. You can see sometimes right at the very end of the radius where the tooling doesn't quite do a really good job. That section gets cut off. So I'm spending a lot of time right here. I've got it clamped down on my welding table. I'm finding the center of the radius point, and then I'm also trying to figure out the actual width of what I need to cut it to, and I'll be doing that by laying the actual width out with a marker on my welding table where the posts would go, so I know the exact width of the gate. I can line everything up nice and square. You can see I'm marking it right there. That would be where the post is going to go. And then from there, I'll transfer that line up onto the radius piece right there. All right, this is me trying to get this angle figured out, so when the post is cut, that angle will come together nice and smooth. I hope. Sometimes a little gap occurs and we have to fill that, but I do the best I can to try to get this angle right. This is just a sample piece right here, and I'm going to get the angle tested right here. We've cut this. I'm going to line it up, and so far I like what I see right there. So that piece is what needs to get cut off. All right, I've got my angle grinder here with a 6-inch cutoff wheel without a guard. I know, but this is the only grinder I have that I can put the big wheel on, and I don't recommend it without a guard, but that's just what I do. And if you guys do that, please be careful. All right, there's the fit, and I'm happy with that. That turns out pretty good. So we'll go with the other side right here, taking my time, nice and slow, nice and easy. You don't want to bind that blade up. All right, that's going to work. So I'm happy with that. Now this is actually the post. Now one post is going to mount to a block wall, and the other post is actually going to mount to the concrete walkway that's got a slight grade to it. And so I'll be welding a base plate to the bottom of that with a small little bracket that's going to return into a small brick planter wall that's about 18 inches tall. You'll see that a little bit later on. All right, getting my posts cut, and you can see right there before the assembly, when they roll the radius in the machine, it kind of gets that radius slightly oblong. That's not a perfect 1.5 inch square, and you can see by me propping that up, raising that up by a little bit less than an eighth, I should say, and just splitting the difference there. So when I weld this together and I grind everything down, I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. Hopefully I can blend that all in without it being so obvious. All right, just getting everything laid out to exactly the width and the height and whatever I need for my gate. Checking for square, and I got it right on the money. As a matter of fact, I was so excited. This was so close that I just had to show you here. I know it's hard for you to see, but it was just within a 30-second. It was just perfect. All right, firing up the HTP Revolution 2500 right here, and I'm in the MIG mode. And this machine operates well at about 250 inches a minute for me on this wall thickness of the material. And I'm using 90% argon and 10% CO2, and that's what I like to use. You can see I'm having to stitch weld this a little bit. That one had a little bit of a gap right there, and I had to fill that in by stitch welding like that. Okay, I ran into my first problem here, and what it is the second radius piece that we're putting in the gate right here. Since I had both radiuses cut exactly the same, I just thought they would be the same once I moved them down like this, but that's not the case for some reason. I don't understand why it's not, but it's not. And both of these radiuses were exactly the same. Like right here, they're exact. But when you move it down like this to where I want to be, 5 1/4 inches away from here, I'm 5 1/4 from the center, I'm 4 1/2 on the outside. Now I tried to get it in the vise off camera right here and give it a little bend in a couple of areas. And you can see I creased it right here. I actually kind of kinked it right here, and it didn't move it at all. So I think my option here is I'm gonna put it in the vise, and I'm gonna bring some heat into it, and I'm gonna heat up. I've marked a couple of areas, key areas right here that just need a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And so I'm gonna see if I can just heat these areas up and get these things bent in. It doesn't take much, and hopefully I can get this in. Now it's gonna darken this up, and it's gonna have burn marks in it, but you know, I should be able to take flap this and clean that up. And nevertheless, it's all gonna be sandblasted, primed, and powder coated. So none of that will ever be seen. But you know, it's just you're trying to do a clean job right here, and it's just not working out the way I was hoping. So let me get this thing set up in the vise. Let me bring my torch in here, and let's see if we can get this thing bent so I can get close to 5 1/4 all the way around right here. All right, so I don't know what the problem there was, but I'm still don't know why that did not line up. However, I've used this method before many times on you know, radiuses if they're not just right, or sometimes you gotta alter the bend to make it fit the hole that you're trying to put it in. I've had radiuses where the actual radius opening was not exactly perfect, and I've had to modify it to bend it. But in this case, I don't know why this did not work. But nevertheless, I'm attempting to do this. And this was a failed attempt. I don't know why. You try to figure this out. You try to think in your head that this is going to work, and there's no reason why this shouldn't work. And it looks like it's going to. You can see that I got the bend there, and I'm going to heat this up, and it looks like I bend this in. So in my mind, in my eyes, it looks like everything is going to work. However, the struggles continue. This was the first attempt, and of course I'm not going to show you all of it. You can see it's back in the vise again. This could be the second, the third, or the fourth attempt. I don't know. But nevertheless, it just a struggle. I just could not get it right. I don't understand it, but ultimately I ended up getting it. You can see the 4 burn marks right there, so that might have been the second attempt, but you can see when I'm done here in a second that whole piece was pretty much burned up. It's just the last little attempt right here. Well, not the last. This is probably just 2 of many. All right. Okay. After many failed attempts and at least 4 hours of messing with this, I finally got it. I've got it within a 1/16 of an inch, and I'm going to leave it there. It's close enough for me. I don't think no matter what I can do, I can get any closer. What I don't understand is why I even had to do anything with it to begin with. You know, I had both of these radius pieces, the top and this piece, bent identically the same. And in theory, once this one was put on, this one should have been able to move down to wherever I need to and just cut and drop in, and this should be the same inside here. For whatever reason, this one was not. Now, I've done this dozens of times before, and I've never had a problem like this. I don't know why I'm having a problem now with this. Unless it's the angle of the fandangle, or I don't know what the situation is right here. I don't know. I'm not a math guy, so there's some sort of theory why this did not work, and I don't understand it. Nevertheless, I finally got it, and I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna cut the ends off right here. And I'm gonna get a flap disc on here and clean up all this burn marks all the way around and try to make it look like it's part of the gate right here. Even though it's gonna get sandblasted, primed, and powder coated, still, just the look of this bugs me. So we're gonna try to get this cut off, get this cleaned up, and let's continue on with our project. All right, well, I'm glad I got over that hurdle, and hopefully we'll be moving forward here without too many more problems. So after all that's done, I finally got the thing cut to length right here. And now I'm going to drop this thing in. But before I do that, I've got to sand everything off with a flap disc right here. You know, like I'd mentioned, you can see all the burn marks on there. And even when you're doing that, it actually puts some kinks in it. You may have saw the kinks in there. So this is 1/8 inch wall thickness material on this radius piece. The rest of the tubing is 063, it's thinner. And so I'm just going around with this flap disc. I'm just kind of cutting all the sharp edges off and kind of grinding down all the high spots and you know, taking out some of the burn marks, the scale that may have come off of that. I'm just kind of cleaning that up a little bit to just make it look a lot better. Although it is going to get powder coated, and you know, sandblast, primed, and powder coat is going to hide a lot of that, but I sure like to clean things up a little bit. And all right, well, there it is. And now I'm just going to drop this thing in and double check my the dimensions right here, and I'm happy with that. Like I said, within a 1/16, maybe an 1/8 in one little spot, but pretty close. I'm just going with it. And I'm finally glad that that's welded into place. All right, so just going around cleaning things up right now the best I can before we move on to the next phase of this gate build right here. You know, I've always mentioned that you know, that I like to grind my welds down. I like them as clean and as smooth as I possibly can, at least the ones I can get to. You know, these are all on the outside of the frame, and I can clean these up. You can see that cleans it up really nice. You know, a lot of people just leave those welds there, and I don't know, I'm just attention to detail. You know, I just like to see a gate build, and I like to see everything nice and smooth and looking good. All right, so with all that cleaned up, we're ready to move forward, and I'm getting ready to lay out the pickets right here, and these are 5/8 square tube. I've got a couple of collars going on here to add a little decor to it, and I'm starting out with the first one right in the center of the gate. And then from there, I will space them accordingly on either side. I want that one right in the center because I do have another piece of decor. It's a cross, a larger cross that's going to be going on that centerpiece, and I just wanted it right in the center of the gate. All right, you see me right there with a square. I've mentioned this before. When you start welding pickets in, you know, it's a good idea about every second or third one to check for square. If you start getting out of square, and it gets bad in a hurry. So, I mean, I'm just suggesting if you guys are doing gates or fence sections that's going to have a lot of pickets in it, just remember, start off square and then check every second two or three pickets to be sure you get squared up. All right, so right down to the very end right here, and there's just a little bit of difference. That didn't work out perfectly, so I'm just being sure that I got it perfectly centered in that last section right there, and I'm happy with it. Repeat the same thing on the other side with these collars. These collars are a nice addition to give it a good look. You can see that you know, just a little decor in there makes a big difference in a gate. But you know, you just want to be sure that you don't get too much so it starts to look maybe too busy. And it was close with this one. I added some more stuff to it. You'll see that here in a little bit. But I think at the very end of the project, it turned out pretty good. So like I said, I'm spaced. I think you see those spacers, 3 3/4, 3 3/4. And at the very end, it might have been 3 5/8 or 3.5 or something like that. It's something, again, you're just not going to really see. And you can see that once I get that put in there, if you're not looking for it, you're never going to see it. It actually looks pretty close. All right, now I need to get these collars welded in place. You can see I've got a little spacer there that I made. I forget that distance. I went off the bottom. I think it was 4.5 or something like that. And I'm just using that spacer to hold that collar in place so everything lines up in a row. Now, welding these on, I'm welding one side, and then I'm welding the back side of the collars. And I'm not going all the way around. I don't feel it necessary to go all the way around. Some people say, hey, how's the powder coat? If it doesn't get inside of there, is there a problem? I've never had a problem. And this has always worked out well, and I'm just going with it. You can see I'm using that same spacer for the top right there. And once I get these things welded on this side, and I go around the other side and catch the same thing. So these welds will be on the back side of the gate, so you're not going to see them from the front side. All right, these are some spears that need to go on the inside right here. Now, I'm replicating a gate that's already in place at this particular resin. The client has something very similar to this in a taller gate, a 6.5 foot tall gate. And so this is close to it. It's only maybe 10 feet away for the smaller gate, so he wanted them to look similar. Well, you can see that these things are designed to fit over a 5/8 square tube, and I've got some modifications to make right here because we are on a radius, so I'm having to grind these down to where they fit nice and square. And I got a little spacer block there to get them held up accordingly in the center of the tubing there. And of course, the ones on the outside required a little bit more grinding, and when I get to the center, it didn't require much grinding at all. A little time consuming, a little tedious work right here to get everything lined up, but looks pretty good at the very end. Now these here, I'm going to end up welding all the way around, because they're vulnerable. They're if you bump or hit something happens and you hit these things, it's cast iron, so that has a hard time sticking to metal when you're welding it. It does, but hey, the more weld you have on there, the better it is. So you can see me going all the way around on these right here. I don't want these things to get bumped and knocked off. I'd rather have as much weld on there as I can, and it didn't take me too much time to go all the way around on these. Once I got that done, I've flipped the gate over, and I'm going ahead and I'm finishing up the rest of the welding all the way around on the pickets. Okay, on this one here, I elected to weld both sides because I really wasn't certain of which way I was needing to go right here. So on this one, I welded both sides of the pickets, the collars on both sides of the pickets. All right, this is the cross I was referring to here. This is just something that the client wanted to add a little bit of decor. So I'm centering this thing up. I'm getting ready to tack this in. Everything looks really good, except I get ready to do it. Whoops, bumped it right there. It's just teetering on that right there, so I had to really be careful that I got everything lined up. All right, once I got it tacked in, and then I'm just welding this from the back side right here, and we shouldn't have any problems with that. All right, there's the gate. That turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that after I got over that radius hurdle problem. All right, so the post right here, this is what I'm talking about. I was just going to put them square, and then I thought, you know what? I think it would be nice if I could just have this radius go all the way through the post and right into the wall. So everything just looks like it's all on the same radius. Like that. That's kind of what I was hoping for. All right, and I'm just going to put a cap on the end of this right here and then clean that up. This is some 1.5 by 1/8 flat bar stock, and then once I got that welded on and just cleaned up right here, it made it look like it's a nice solid bar. And the same with the other side. All right, so I'm over here at the mill, and I've got a hole saw right here, and this one's 3/4 of an inch. So what I don't show, but I'm going to explain to you, is I'm cutting this, and this is what I'm going to use to mount the post to the block wall. Now I'm going to put a screw through there, and then I've got a plug that plugs that hole, plugs that gap, and that turned out pretty nice. Now this is what I was talking about early on. This post is the one that's going to have the flat plate welded to, and the base plate, and I cut a slight little angle because I mentioned that concrete is sloped a little bit, and this is about a 5-degree angle right here. And I wanted to be sure that the post stays plumb as I mount the base plate to the concrete, and this angle is the angle that I was trying to get. It was about 5 degrees. And that one's going to go like that, and then I had just the latch right here is just a thumb latch, and then I've got a bracket right here. This is the bracket that's going to mount to the brick planter wall. And once I got everything lined up, just get everything welded on. That little latch you see to the left right there is something the customer wanted. It is going to be mounted to the block wall. As the gate opens up all the way, it's going to latch to the block wall and hold it in the open position. And that's just a 3-inch base plate right there with the holes all pre-drilled in it. All of this stuff, obviously, I got from King Metals. They just have everything you need for stuff like this. It's just pretty awesome. All right, there's the gate right there. It's all done. I'm going to get it, that was quite a task, quite a project for me. It turned out pretty good at the very end, but it's always a learning experience, and there's always something that goes wrong, but, you always seem to get over those hurdles. So there it is, all powder coated and installed, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. It was with my struggles and everything, but I'm happy with the results. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.